I never expected to be winning with a deck like this in the big 26. It's been a while since I felt like I could play a relatively fair interactive mid-range deck, and when I saw this list on Untapped, I mean, I knew I had to play it, but I didn't expect it to work nearly as well as it actually did. This is a fairly safe and restrained mid-range deck, where the idea is you have some interactive tools and you have some tools that allow you to create power, and it's your job to try to balance those tools against each other. There's a couple cool things going on here, one of which is, of course, the involvement of one of my favorite cards in Marvel Snap, Anti-Venom. Anti-Venom allows this deck to have a little bit more output later in the game, but it also brings Luke Cage with it. With Luke Cage in the deck, activating a Mysterio when there's a Luke Cage on the board means that you effectively have a 2/10. So not only are you getting the value out of being a deck that has natural answers to certain locations in the form of Luke Cage, it's an ongoing card that works well with Aurora, and you're getting the Anti-Venom, you're also making Mysterio really, really big. This is an additional bit of points that a deck like this really needs, and I think it's a unique adaptation to what the deck was already doing. Another card that is quite helpful in this context is Man-Thing, who is a big lane winner. He is in here alongside the other stuff. It could be viable to run Iska instead there, but I have enjoyed what Man-Thing has brought to the table. The rest of this deck is pieces of interesting ways to interact with your opponent. Obviously, we kind of have to play Cosmo because we've got to respect what a lot of people are doing out here, Star-Lord, and to a lesser extent, Shou-Lao. We're not nearly as good at Cosmoing that, but we do okay. Then, of course, we also have Thing First Steps, who is able to be interaction in certain situations and probably our tallest guy. I am playing a Spider-Ham here, even though because of the bug, I have no idea what he hits, but I don't care because he works with Aurora. And, you know, maybe he hit something that actually mattered. I don't know, they basically never play it, but he felt pretty okay. Largely, what this deck is trying to do is old school Marvel Snap. Interaction, mid-range, just playing fair games where your interaction goes up against their power and your power goes up against their interaction. It's not what I would expect to be succeeding, but I climbed about 100 SP with it. I was pretty shocked. When you're playing an Aurora deck, you need a certain amount of just cards that go on the board and have different abilities. Activate is one of the harder abilities to actually get into your deck, so it is nice that we have a disruptive piece here. I do think that the bug is pretty substantial. If you wanted to replace him with Iceman, I think that would be a perfectly acceptable thing. The deck worked well enough that I didn't feel the need to actually make that replacement, and even though I didn't really know what I was hitting, just doing something is kind of just enough. Big Bob is an end of turn 1/4, basically everything this deck could possibly ask for. Obviously phenomenal in a deck that is trying to measure out its point allocation in various situations, allows you to move and redistribute power with your snaps, does provide a little bit of downward pressure on snaps. Like, I think that largely I snap a little less because I have Bob, because I'm like, I need to save this. And I think for my opponents, they're really only snapping when they're like, I'm going to screw him over with this Bob snap. It does sort of feel like him being in the deck makes snaps happen a little less. Kirby is your worst 2 by quite a margin. He's not like horrendous or anything, and you really need 2s, but he's kind of just here. The other 2s are basically always better, especially if you're playing them on 2, because Mysterio is an on reveal and an activate. Sam Wilson is an on reveal and an ongoing. Both of them get bigger most of the time too. Like, if you have the Luke Cage, you have the ability to make the Mysterio 10, or if it gets the buffs off of the Aurora, it'll be even bigger. Like, there's just kind of a lot of things that those cards do that this card does not. What it does is be a 2/6 or a 2/7 that takes up 2 board spaces a lot. That's fine, but I do think he's definitely your you're the least happy with this. Maybe it's an Ascani Sun angle. I'm not sure yet. So, bunch of stuff going on with Mysterio here. The first and most basic thing that Mysterio is bringing to the table is that he is an on reveal and an activate. That's very good. If you're able to get double Aurora procs onto him and then have a Luke Cage on the board that swaps over, that's very good. I basically never did this, but that's beside the point. Most of what he is a 210 with Luke Cage. That's the real thing that you're trying to do here. This is a deck that really needs priority. I was doing this stuff early. This was happening early. 2 5-power guys. Like, it's good enough to just play the Luke Cage on 3 and play for priority that way by making both Mysterios 5. Like, that is a thing that will come up. You care deeply about priority because you are a Cosmo deck, because you need to be able to be ahead if you want your interaction to stop them from going over the top of you. Luke is here in order to facilitate Mysterio and Anti-Venom and Man-Thing, and that's really kind of it. Like, yeah, you might run into someone who's playing Polaris, but like, I'm filming this on like Saturday morning. I don't really think you're going to run into a lot of them anymore. Maybe I'm underestimating the amount of people who are going to be playing a bunch of like weekend mission decks on Saturday. I don't know. I could be off base here. I basically played one Afflict deck the entire night where he was actually doing something that wasn't just working with the cards in my deck. But there is that upside. If you're not playing one of the combo decks Cosmo is basically required, you've got to have some way to make the Star Lords feel sad. You've got to have some way to try to set up locations that your opponents are unable to do ridiculous stuff on. The litany of quote-unquote bad decks that you will lose to if you don't Cosmo is almost endless. It's just a great card. Also, you know, ongoing Aurora, we love it. Drax, Avatar of Life, is a very solid stat stick, usually going to end up around 3.7 or 3.10, maybe a little bit bigger, depending. You're very happy with a card that has end of turn and gains some power, but when you're playing this deck, do keep in mind that your end of turns go in play order, so there are going to be certain situations where that can be good and bad for you. One that typically comes up is that your Hydra Bob, maybe you played that on 1, you played this on 3, you played Thing on the turn 5. Well, they'll work in that order. So if you're counting on the Hydra Bob being in the lane that the Thing is in, the Hydra Bob will actually move out of it, so the Thing won't actually destroy something, and then this will try to move maybe into it, but it can't see the future. It doesn't know, like, it can't calculate for it filling up a lane and Thing destroying something because it filled up a lane. It doesn't know that. It doesn't have that ability. So you'll run into these interactions. Largely just understand that end of turns happen in play order and pay attention to them, and you won't screw yourself over. I am a big sucker for any kind of Anti-Venom deck, and I think this is a nice adaptation by whoever put this list together. I found it on Untapped, so shout out to you, whoever you are. I really enjoyed playing this, as I do anything playing Anti-Venom, but this is a card that makes sense here for a lot of the same reasons that Anti-Venom type stuff made sense in the ongoing deck before it started getting a lot smaller and more Iron Man centric. Anti-Venom is just great in decks where your final turn is supposed to be one big 6-drop. It's just great. You get extra stuff. Anti-Venom Luke Cage means that you are able to get so many powerful things on the board in ways that, and this is really important, your opponents are not aware of. It is very easy to play against a deck like this and just do the math for Aurora and beat it. But when you have an Anti-Venomed card in the hand, as well as the Aurora, that is harder to do math on. God forbid you have the Aurora Anti-Venomed. Like, you get so much out of this ability to actually be tricky in a deck that is otherwise very straightforward and telegraphed. Man-Thing is just a really big guy. I think it would be viable to replace him with Iska. I like that Man-Thing is in here because it's obviously a card that works with the Luke Cage package, and I think if you do make that replacement, suddenly you're sitting there thinking, well, you know, maybe I don't do any of this Luke Cage stuff. So I like that it's like enough of a commitment, right? And this is also just a really, really big guy. Really, really enormous guy. You do have to pay attention, though, because you got a lot of cards that make other cards. Like, it is very easy to set up a lane where if you don't have the loot cage, he really sucks. You do have to kind of pay attention to how your things are going, where you're positioning your Mysterio, where you're positioning your Sam Wilson. What are you doing in terms of board spaces? It felt pretty tricky to make sure that all of my cards would work in this deck some of the time, and board space clog was definitely a part of that. I think First Steps is just a really solid 6, but I think you could be very easily served, and it might actually be better if you just put a Cosmic Ghost Rider in here. I think that is a very easy replacement you can make. I love playing Thing First Steps. I like the verticality he gives this deck. This dude missed like every time I needed him to hit something specific, so I could have just had a bad run. But I do think that, like, if you don't have Thing First Steps, you don't want to go get Thing First Steps for this deck, you probably will have a Cosmic Ghost Rider that you got for some other deck, and you can definitely be willing to play it here. Aurora is the deck. This is a deck that is built around getting maximum Aurora value, and that gives you, like, some play patterns that are typically pretty predictable that this deck is very specifically trying to subvert with the Anti-Venom stuff. That is good. It is good that this deck is trying to subvert the predictability of this archetype. There are some issues that you run into, though. Like, in terms of power, you typically get big brothered a little bit by Doom 2099. That's definitely a bit of a problematic matchup. You can deal with Star-Lord. Like, they are typically doing things that are reasonably strong, but if you're setting up your lanes with Fin Fang Foom in mind and using things like Sam Wilson's shield to make certain plays difficult for them and back buffing lanes so they can't Juggernaut and Cosmoing the right stuff, it's an okay-ish matchup. You're pretty solid into Supergiant. I feel like that one's pretty favored for you, actually. Like, there are things that this deck doesn't love seeing, but I was pleasantly surprised by how functional it was as a legitimate list of, like, I felt like I did a lot more power than I thought I would do. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching this far in the video. As always, I've been KMBest. You've been phenomenal. Remember to like and subscribe and enjoy the gameplay we are about to cut into. Because of that thing. That was why they did it. Ew. What kind of gamer is this? No idea what I hit. Fallen. This is She-Hulk Hit Monkey. I don't even know if I beat this. Ain't that a motherfucker? How does Drax understand how this card works? I mean, I guess I just snap, right?
It's clobbering time.
Drax can get tricked by other EOTs after it, but not before it. So he's not gonna fuck me here.
Victory.
Guy does combo shit. I forget what it is specifically. Where's the combo shit? Fuck. I mean, if I snap this, I probably win. Oh, that's fascinating. Late. Does Living Tribunal lose me the Nexus? I don't know how it works. I think it's after Nexus. Me too, but like, what if I just fucking die? Be really funny. I genuinely have no idea how this works. So we could lose 4 here. I've got no clue. All right, let's find out.
Such is my judgment.
Oh, it works the good way. It works the good way. It works the broken way. Oh, it works the super broken way. I mean, that is scary. Ouch. It works the super broken way.
Victory.
Which is to say, kind of mediocre mid-rangey bullshit. 14 cards in deck, so we're looking down the barrel of a Thanos. This is a good matchup for Man-Thing and a mid matchup for Bee-Thing. Whoa. How cool. Base. Good. Okay, the random carnage is actually looking very possible now. Played Herbie on 3, so 4, 5, 6. It might just be better to go for the rock. If we snap this... I don't think we can. Whoa. Are we allowed to snap this? What we can do is... something like that. I know no thing destroy. He's just there for stats. I break.
Inevitable.
And a win on the tiebreak. Nice.
Victory.
Yeah, he's just there for stats because they had Demon and a bunch of stones, right? Like, I think if you guys played any other card game before, you'd have way more grace for Marvel Snap's metagames. Like, legit. Any other card game. Woo! Scary hours! Holy shit. Tommy's a beast! I have to full skip the turn to make this happen, right? Like, I can't... Yeah. I'm not falling for it. I'm not falling for that psyop. If you move that shield, those rocks do not go away. He like, yeah, Frigga. Makes sense. I have Cryo here. What are we looking down the barrel of? That's a good one. That's definitely a good one. And then this is my final turn? Dude, I have no actual clue what the fuck I'm supposed to do here. I think it is... There are so many things that could happen here. Order? What's wrong with my order? You should play Luke first? It doesn't matter. It's retroactive. Why does that guy say 15? I lose? We tie? I win a tiebreaker? Holy shit. Holy. Surely this Mysterio just sends it to the right, or to the left location. I'm sorry. Mysterio to the left. No! Because I said right. Ooh. I mean, they play a Star-Lord, right? Do I go for the 1 in 3, or do I try to actually beat it? Yes! Oh! Oh, god damn. It feels good. It feels good. Just spent there the entire time. Like, if you're a Star-Lord gamer, it always goes here because it's the one you play onto the Man-Thing lane, right? Never retreat. It's always wrong. Lesson to learn. Never ever retreat. Ew. What the fuck? You're not allowed to play Windjet? That's fucking illegal, bro. Jesus. Not allowed to do that. Certainly a game of Marvel Snap we're playing. I'm gonna have to snap soon, I think. That's so horrifying. And then they do more? Can I win this, or am I just fucking dead? If I snap this, what happens? Honest to God, they have 3 gambits. Snaps back. Do we lose or do we win, though? Like, that's kind of the question.
Oh, snap.
Three gambits is so fucking many gambits. They do another gambit, right? I get it. But, like, we have big men. And a lot of bodies. So it's like, yes, I do think we're kind of dead. But consider the following. What if I just have large guys, right? It's got a lot of dudes. All you'd have, right? But it would be enough, right? We have nothing that Man-Thing actually... We only Drax in the mid. Like, it's like, I don't know. I think there's a world where this wins, even if they play 3 Gambits. Hey. Gambit number 1. Yeah. Gambit number 2. Gambit number 3. Come on down. See? See?
Victory.
Just play cards. Just play cards that cost 4. Fucking fine. Lucky? That wasn't lucky. That was like the mathematically that was the mean outcome. In order for us to lose, we would have to lose, let's see, Man-Thing, Anti-Venom. They gain 6 here. We still win. I don't think we can possibly lose. Like a Sam Wilson. Love a little Sam Wilson. Turn 2. This guy's still like one of the best cards in the game. Talk about a guy that needed to get nerfed 8 million times. Kind of unbelievable. Is Sam Rainbow? Yeah, he's a legit god split. All right, man.
Opponent snapped.
I'm assuming they are going to... I'm going to stick around for this, even though I shouldn't. They're going to Scarlet Witch that, right?